First Watch Now.
What you need to know from the Cochise County Sheriff's Office.
Hosted by Cochise County Public Information Officers Carol Kappas and Grady Butler. First Watch on 92.3 KWCD.
And it's brought to you by Sulphur Springs Valley Electric Cooperative, giving you an inside look into your sheriff's office. I'm Grady Butler, and with me is Carol Kappas, Public Information Officer with the Sheriff's Office. And this morning we're going to do a little bit different. Sheriff Daniels will be in a little bit later in the show, but we've been doing the jail district town halls all throughout the county. So we've invited Commander Bradshaw to come and kick things off today and kind of give us a version of what we've been talking to the whole county about the jail district. Good morning, Commander Bradshaw.
Good morning, Grady. Good morning, Carol. Thanks for letting us steal your mic this morning. I just want to start off with some of the reasons that we think that we need a new modern facility here in Cochise County. There's two main reasons. The first one is the infrastructure. The jail itself is 40 years old, and it's falling apart. We have power that is not working. Last summer, we actually ran the facility off of an extension cord for 5 weeks. We had a power outage for 2 days. APS came in, couldn't figure out exactly what was wrong, and we ended up running a cable from our main electric input all the way down to Highway 80 to an electrical substation just to power the facility. We also have such hard water in Bisbee, and Bisbee's notorious for having hard mineralized water, and it's just very abusive on the pipes and all the equipment in the jail. So we most recently we spent $140,000 on new water heaters and water softener to try and alleviate that. But whoever built the jail, and I'm not trying to knock anybody out there, or designed it, they put the boiler room and the electrical room right next to each other. So when we have all these leaks and drips and floods and everything else, water runs right into the electric. And if you go online and look at some of the slides and pictures that we have on our website, you can see that the electrical conduit is actually corroded, and we believe there's actually water in those lines that are causing some of these electrical issues. The last part of the infrastructure problems that I want to talk about are, in 1985, when the facility was built, we didn't have IP cameras, we didn't have IP phones, we didn't have computers, we didn't have Cat5 cable. So everything is what I like to say aftermarket. So if you walk down the main hallway in the jail, it looks like the inside of a submarine. There's conduit, cable, everything running in there, and it lends itself to tampering, and it's just not a good situation for a detention facility. The other thing I want to talk about this morning is the change of population in the jail over the last 40 years. So 40 years ago, we had maybe 10, 15 females that at any one time that were incarcerated, and now it runs in the 50s, 60s, and our population for the main jail is 302. So we have 3 jails in the county. We have 19 beds here in Sierra Vista. We have 16 beds in Wilcox, and then we have 302 beds in Bisbee. In 1985, when the jail in Bisbee was built, it was built for only 168 beds. In the late 90s, it was double bunked to 302. So that 168 was designed for just a very small population, and now it's out of control. Last September, the state of Arizona passed a new anti-smuggling law that so the local agencies could start to attack human trafficking. The first 3 months, our population skyrocketed to the 340, 345, and remember, our max beds was 302. So what happens is classification starts to break down when we're at about 260. And what classification is when you come into the jail, you're classified as a minimum, a medium, maximum, obviously females, and juveniles. And that's to protect all those different classifications from each other. And that depends on your criminal history, your propensity for violence, and there's a myriad of things that go into that classification process. So let's talk about those juveniles for a minute. Here about 5 years ago, we noticed a big trend of the cartels using all these juveniles to smuggle drugs across the border. The problem was the federal government doesn't have any kind of process to prosecute those juveniles. So our sheriff and our county attorney got together and said there has to be some kind of consequence for this action. So we started charging them locally and charging them as adults and incarcerating them in the main jail. At one time, we got up to a population of 36. Well, one of the problems with juveniles is that even though they're charged as adults, you still have to go by all the juvenile rules. So we have to abide by the school lunch program. They have to have 1 hour of large muscle mass activity every day. They have to have GED, education, high school. And the biggest thing is they have to be totally sight and sound separated from any other adult inmate in the jail. So every time we want to move them to go to a lawyer visit, visitation, recreation, court, anything like that, the entire facility has to be locked down to move. Well, I think that worked really well when the sheriff and county attorney decided to do that, because then they stopped using them. Well, that brings us to today, where now the cartels are using these juveniles and they're recruiting them out of the Valley area up in Phoenix to come down and smuggle. And they're telling them if you run from the cops, you won't be chased. Well, that's not necessarily true. So this morning we had 7 juveniles that are charged as adults in the facility, and that ranges anywhere from the crimes of felony flight to actual homicide, where we had a 14-year-old that was doing 100 miles an hour and crashed into another vehicle and killed a lady. So those are the kind of populations that are changing. The biggest population that has changed in the last 40 years are those with mental health illnesses. So in Cochise County, in rural Arizona, there are no established mental health facilities. Most places in urban areas have what they call a crisis center. So in a crisis center, there's 2 sides. I like to call it beds and chairs. So in the chair side, somebody comes in, they're out in front of Circle K, cussing out everybody that comes in and out. Law enforcement has a choice in those urban areas. They can take them to that place, and maybe they just need to watch a couple hours of Gilligan's Island, have a peanut butter jelly sandwich, and they can go back out and be a great contributing member of society. Well, some of those people maybe need to go to the bedside for 72 hours, get back on a medication regimen, see a physician, and then they can go out and not have a problem. But the problem that we have in rural Arizona is if a law enforcement officer is called for their 3rd, 4th, 5th time to that Circle K, 7-Eleven, whatever it happens to be, and because some guy's out front cussing everybody out, raising a bunch of garbage and just being a fool, because he's so mentally ill, we don't have that choice. So the law enforcement officer ends up taking them and charging them with trespassing, disturbing the peace, whatever the case may be, and putting them in jail. Our problem is that some of these folks are so mentally ill that we can't put them in general population. Because if we put them in general population, they're either preyed upon by the general population, or they're so ill or out of control that they could injure the rest of the population. So we have to isolate them. Well, you or I isolated for any amount of time would start to lose it a little bit, and these folks are already there, so we're not doing them any good. So mental health in this county, and especially once it gets into the criminal justice system, has become such a big issue. And with a new modern facility, we can address that. Sheriff and I, command staff, members of the community, we've gone around and try and get a crisis center established here. But if we can build a new facility with a crisis center established in that facility and proper mental health treatment, that would be a great solution. But we brought in members, experts to look at the jail from the National Institute for Jail Operations, different organizations, just to see if we could fix it. But there's such a security issue, such bad design, everything else. The ultimate decision was, you guys need a new facility.
And so you talked about mental health, and that's one of the big things, but also physical health is another issue in the jail. And so we have our next expert, which is Megan Kennedy. Introduce yourself and tell us what you do in the jail.
Hi. Excuse me. Thanks for having me. I'm Megan Kennedy. I'm the Division Director of Detention Health Services at the Cochise County Jail. So
tell us your presentation that you've given at the jail district town hall meetings.
Okay. So I'm going to start with our staffing challenges. And whenever I talk about staffing challenges, I'm going to first hit on the fact that we don't have 24/7 on-site medical care. So we don't have nurses on site 24/7. This definitely causes an issue whenever it comes to an increase in dollars spent whenever we're having to send these individuals out to the hospital, whether it be for mental health issues or it be for medical issues. And I have very caring, competent, and compassionate nurses that work for the jail. And they are hindered in providing this care because we don't have 24/7 medical staff. They're also hindered because we don't have a proper modern facility, so we don't have an infirmary. Whenever we talk about the staffing challenges and the fact that we don't have 24/7 medical care, that can be something as small as an individual requiring IV antibiotics. If an individual requires IV antibiotics, we can't hold that individual at the Cochise County Jail because my nurses are absolutely capable of providing those medications per the orders and the intravenous route, but they are unable to do that because we don't have any staff on site overnight. And so that causes an issue. Those individuals would have to be housed outside of our facility at a hospital with 24/7 officers with them constantly. Whenever we talk about mentally ill population that we have at our jail, it's fairly large, and nearly 2/3 of inmates have received mental health services at some point in their lifetime. And while we've been able to increase our mental health services provided to the individuals incarcerated within the Cochise County Jail, we are still lacking the ability to properly house them, like Commander Bradshaw talked about, and a lot of the times their mental illness is exacerbated by their housing location, and it's a constant fight. We've been able to increase our mental health provider visits, and it's been a huge help, but we still kind of have our hands tied. When I talk about the mental health trends in Cochise County, our average daily population has increased by almost 100 since 2021. And with that increase, we're seeing a lot more medical issues, a lot more mental health issues. And we do have a public health social worker on site who is able to see these individuals, start a treatment plan whenever they come in. And she sees them, and right away she's starting a discharge plan in case they are getting released back into the community. She's creating linkages to care for community reentry. And she's working very, very hard. She sees an average of 100 patients per month, and she's completing about 20 linkages to care per month. About 10% of the individuals that she is seeing are diagnosed seriously mentally ill. She just recently implemented a book exchange program, which has been a huge help with all of our population. And in January of 2023, she was able to exchange 856 books. Whenever I talk about the mental health services as far as our mental health provider, in July of 2021, our mental health provider saw 19 inmates, and that increased to 39 inmates in November of 2022. For 2023, the mental health provider is seeing an average of 35 patients per month, and about 17% of our population is on mental health medications. Whenever I talk about addressing the ongoing medical and drug addiction, substance use abuse problems within Cochise County and within the jail, it's definitely increased, and it's increased with our population. And this also increases the dollars spent and could increase the long-term hospitalizations that we have. When we have an individual who comes in who is going to be possibly withdrawing from a substance, whether that be methamphetamine or an opiate, fentanyl withdrawals have been some of the worst withdrawals that I've seen in my career. And whenever they come in, we do a substance abuse withdrawal scale, and it's an assessment that we complete twice a day. In 2020, there were 441 of those assessments completed. In 2021, there was 2,287 completed. And just since January in 2023, we've completed almost 400. So it's definitely a rise, and the increase in withdrawals is becoming more apparent. We do have a provider on site at our jail. The provider's on site 2 to 3 days a week. She sees a lot of patients, and the access to care is wonderful because we do have that provider on site, and she is able to see these individuals for chronic care issues, whether it be diabetes or hypertension, congestive heart failure. She's seeing individuals every single day that she's there. In January 1st through August 31st, 2022, there were 226 individuals seen by the provider. January 1st through March 27th in 2023, she's already seen 101. So that's definitely increasing as well. And then whenever I talk about the facility challenges, our main problem and challenge that we face is that we don't have an infirmary. And there will be slides available online for you to view, and the slides that we've shown, pictures that we've shown of our detention medical clinic are, I've been told, don't do it justice. And so everybody said, no, that space is much smaller than it looks in those pictures. So I went in and I was like, yeah, I'm going to just paste this off real quick and see how big it is. And it's about 12 foot by 14 foot is our clinic space, which most people's bedrooms are larger than that. And that's where we provide care. That's where my very competent nurses are forced to be in a very small area, which can create some safety issues. And they're there to care for these individuals. They're very good at what they do, but they're putting themselves at risk because of the space and the fact that we don't have an infirmary and a proper place to care for these individuals. We also have a lack of storage space. We're constantly having to find places to store stuff, whether it be under a desk or bartering with detention staff to get a closet somewhere so that we can store our medical supplies. Not having an infirmary hinders us from being able to properly medically monitor patients that require that long-term monitoring. We also don't have a negative pressure room, which would be used for individuals that are requiring droplet precautions, such as tuberculosis. Being a border county, tuberculosis can be more prevalent in these areas. So if we did have an individual who required a negative pressure room, we wouldn't be able to house that individual at the jail, and they'd have to be housed at a hospital that does have a negative pressure room with 24/7 detention on them. And so building a modern jail would allow the very competent and compassionate nurses that I do have and that I work closely with to provide excellent care.
Well, Megan Kennedy, we thank you for coming and talking to us today about the jail, and Commander Bradshaw, we thank you as well.
Thank you, Gray.
Thank you.
Coming up, we've got Sheriff Mark Daniels. He's going to talk about the jail district, as well as the County Administrator, Richard Karwachka. That's coming up next on First Watch, brought to you by Sulphur Springs Valley Electric Cooperative.
It's First Watch Now.
Hosted by Public Information Officer Carol Kappas and Grady Butler.
On 92.3 KWCD.
And it's brought to you by Sulphur Springs Valley Electric Cooperative, giving you an inside look into your Sheriff's Office. I'm Grady Butler, and with me is Carol Kappas, Public Information Officer with the Sheriff's Office. And our next guest, it's the County Administrator, Richard Karwachka. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. So we've been giving our jail district talk around the county, and your part is about what's on the ballot, how the election's going to roll, all the dates. So go ahead and give us your presentation as you did on the town hall meetings.
So first and foremost, if people want to vote for the all-mail election on May 16th, please register to vote by April 17th. That's coming up pretty quickly. That'll be the last day to register to vote. On April 19th, the ballots will be mailed out. And from April 19th to May 15th, either they can fill out the form, pencil in the yes or no, and it's a yes or no question. That's the only question on the ballot, and that is for the half-cent sales tax for 25 years. So if you're in support of that, you circle yes, I want the half-cent sales tax for 25 years. If you're opposed, circle no, I'm not in favor of the half-cent sales tax. And then after filling that out, you can mail it back, or between April 19th and May 15th, you can go to one of 5 locations to drop that off. And that is at the Bisbee Recorder's Office. In Benson, it's at the County Service Center. In Douglas, is at the Service Center. In Sierra Vista, it's a service center at Foothills. In Wilcox, it's at the service center there. And you can drop off your ballot, and this is important, Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. If you drop it before or after that time, or those on Saturday or Sunday, it will be locked and you won't be able to drop it off. Now, if on May 16th, which is the day of election, you didn't mail it in, you've lost it, you can go to 3 locations to get a ballot replacement. And that is also at the recorder's office in Bisbee. You can go to Sierra Vista here at the Foothills location or in the Wilcox Service Center. At any one of those, you can walk in that day. They'll verify your information. They'll give you a ballot. You can fill it out and turn it in on that day. Now, what's important is to people understand about the half-cent sales tax. The board established a jail district, but this is the funding portion of the jail district. And if it fails, it all fails. So people are asking, what about property tax versus sales tax? Well, that is a good question, and it's once we break it down, it's easy to see why the board moved forward on the sales tax. So the sales tax is expected to bring in $8.5 million of revenue every year. Now, to do a calculation, because people are like, what does that mean to me? We took $8.5 million divided by what we believe the population is in Cochise County, or what it was recorded as, and it turned out to be roughly $67 for the whole year per resident here. Compare that to property tax. Now, if we want to recover the same amount of revenue, $8.5 million, we would have to increase property tax by 31%. So, and that would be $83 per $100,000 home. So when you compare sales tax, $67, and that's on the high side because it doesn't encompass all the people coming across from the border purchasing goods and services here. Also, it doesn't encompass anyone out of the county. It's simply the simple math of $8.5 million divided what we believe the residents are here. So $67, or put the burden on all the property taxpayers. It was very easy for the board to decide that we're going to proceed with the half-cent sales tax. One of the big questions that we keep hearing is that the county wants this to succeed because they get a break. They don't have to pay for the jail anymore, and that is not true. We get audited every year by the county, and the Auditor General, which is not part of the county, determines what our maintenance of effort is. And we pay $5.4 million currently a year for the jail. We still have to pay that going on. So that $8.5 million would be above and beyond. We don't forgive our contribution, and our $5.4 million would go up with inflation. The other thing that people are saying is, all right, well, you want all this money so that you can use it for other purposes. Nope, that's where the Auditor General comes in again. The Auditor General, as I said before, we get audited every year, looks at all the money and revenue that comes in and comes out and make sure we spend it for that specific purpose. So if we spend it for anything else besides the jail, then that's a huge, huge penalty on the county. The other thing that I do want to mention is that the sheriff did a great job with going up to the legislature, and Representative Griffin pushed forward, and the legislature agreed to bring $20 million to help in the construction of it. However, we have to get the funding, secure the rest of the funding in order for us to get the $20 million, and we have until 2027. If the jail district passes, then we can get that $20 million. If it fails and we're not successful by 2027, then we lose out on that $20 million. And I think with that, So
Judge Conalog was also one of the presenters during our town halls, and he spoke to how transparent this is and kind of how we got up to this position from starting last year. So would you kind of talk about that for a moment?
Yes. So the whole reason why this all started, we received a report from NIJO, National Institute of Jail Operations, and they came down to examine our jail, whether to remodel, rebuild, what other recommendations they said. And they came back with, we need to build a new jail. So that started this whole process, and I was given directives by the board of what to do and move forward. And one of them is to get community input, because Nigel gave a report, but we want the community involved to see what their opinion is. So this committee was selected. Judge Conlog was the retired Judge Conlog was the chair, and several other community members were involved, and they unanimously decided, after several presentations over spanning 3 months, and they're all recorded and online, so anyone listening now can go back and review the same information they've seen, and they unanimously agreed that we need a new jail, and this needs to move forward. And the one thing I want to tell people is this is not the end of the conversation. If the jail district passes, this conversation is going to continue. These open house meetings are going to continue. These radio meetings are going to continue. We want to be open and transparent with every step of the way. This is the next step. We need the funding in order to then move forward and get the details for everyone else that we keep hearing.
And now Sheriff Mark Daniels is in the studio, and we're going to talk about his part of the presentation for the town hall meetings of the jail district.
Well, good morning, Grady. Good morning, Rich, to my right here, and good morning to everybody out there. You know, this has been a 2-year, 3-year process before we even got to these town hall meetings. And talking to the experts like our county administrator spoke about with NIJO, the National Institute of Jail Operations, DLR, which is a correctional detention construction company. That's all they do. They came and spoke with us, and their recommendations were pretty strong, Grady, and that was the fact that it's time. I had the opportunity, not trying to show my age here, where I watched them actually open the door of the new jail. When I was working, we used to book our inmates at the old courthouse in downtown Bisbee. So if you're down there looking up to the 3rd floor, you'll see bars on the window. That's actually where the old jail was. The sheriff's office used to be in the basement. So it was really exciting when they opened those doors, because 40 years ago it made sense. 40 years later, it does not make sense to keep running it. It's a crumbling facility. It's a maintenance nightmare. But more important, it's not up to modern day standards. And that's so important to us. So we've done our homework as we went around the community and spoke to them. And I want to thank everybody that came out for those meetings. They had valid questions all the way through. But really, and this is how I say it, it boils down to 2 things. The quality of life. We did a survey with the public. We had a company out of Phoenix do that. The board, County Administrator Karwashka, had a survey done. And the top 3 priorities were inmate and officer safety, mental and medical enhancements in our jail for health, and last not least was quality of life. I asked what that meant. And that means that if we don't have the proper facility to house people that need to be locked up, it's a fact. People need to be locked up to commit horrific crimes, violent crimes, and if we don't have that facility, guess what? They're in our communities. They're not held like they need to be held. Those are community risk factors, and it also boils down to quality of life. So it boils down to when we did our town hall meetings was this is a quality of life issue. I spoke about that, but second of all, as the county administrator stated too, this is also what's it cost. And as he stated, this is a half-cent sales tax, all user, for about $65, $67 a year per person per year. You break that down. That doesn't include our visitors, our guests, our tourists that come here and spend money, those coming on I-10, which I think is going to boil down to about $40, $50 a year. Those are nominal pennies when it comes to your quality of life. So I share that. I'd also like to add this, Grady. If it doesn't pass, what are the consequences? By statute, there's 2 things: property tax or sales tax. We're bringing the most efficient way to get this done. Now we've secured $22.2 million, $2.2 million from Senator Sinema, Senator Kelly, $20 million from the state, thanks to Gail Griffin. We're trying to collect more money, but jails are a hard thing. People don't want to give money. If I wanted to do a park, we'd have all kinds of money flowing in, but we're not doing a park here. We're doing a quality of life issue that's the hub of the criminal justice system. So we're going to continue those efforts. We're going to continue to be transparent. But I say, as your sheriff, over the last 11 years, my team and I, we brought in over $100 million to offset cost. I have not come to the taxpayers and said, I need your help. I'm coming to you now come to you now saying we need you to stand united, collected with us, and let's get a new facility that serves all of Cochise County.
All right, so the jail district information is online on the county website, and you can find all of the past videos. You can find all of the dates that you need. Everything is online at the Cochise County website as well.
That is correct, and also you'll find the video of one of the town hall meetings, also the presentations. All the information is there.
That's Richard Karwachka with the county administrator and also Sheriff Mark Daniels. Coming up next, we're going to have Carol Kappas back in. We're going to recap what's going on at the sheriff's office. It's First Watch on KWCD Country, and it's brought to you by Sulphur Springs Valley Electric Cooperative.
It's First Watch Now.
Hosted by Public Information Officer Carol Kappas and Grady Butler.
On 92.3 KWCD.
And it's brought to you by Sulphur Springs Valley Electric Cooperative, giving you an inside look into your sheriff's office. I'm Grady Butler, and with me is Carol Kappas, Public Information Officer with the sheriff's office, and Sheriff Mark Daniels. Good morning.
Good morning, Cochise County, and happy Good Friday.
Hello again, everybody. We're back. Welcome back to the seat, Carol.
So I have some good news, but I want you to announce it.
Well, we do. It's exciting news, and it's we integrate within the community. That's one of the big things we do under our awareness, prevention, and just our relationship programs that we do throughout Cochise County. And Grady, you've been a big asset on the exterior side, helping public safety, not just the sheriff's office, but public safety. You've been around 32 years. He actually gave me the 2 number on the finger. So
same piece.
Yeah, I can't read his mind, but people didn't hear you that, But you've done so many good things, and you're very talented at what you do. So we had the opportunity with a 5-year grant from the state of Arizona for a full-time PIO to work under Carol here to my right, and you've been selected, and now you are our new PIO for Cochise County Sheriff's Office. So congratulations to that.
Thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to the next journey and adventure for sure.
Yes, and I got to give a big shout out to Town Square Media here. I mean, for letting us be part of their family too here, because we're here every Friday. I come in during the week and do some things, and Val and Rebecca, everybody around. I mean, you guys, Jim, everybody has just been awesome here. So thank you. But I understand I'm sure they're saying, what's going to happen to Grady? Is he leaving? You might want to talk about that too.
Well, they're making me some offers to stick around and do some part-time stuff with them and still help them out with the technology side of things and maybe even voice track a show. So I'll still be around on the radio, but in a limited capacity.
Yeah, like I said, I'm sure they don't want to see you go either. So don't get mad at me because we took Grady off the radio on Friday morning and throughout the week. So Grady, thank you for your contributions to the community. But I'm excited to get you on board with us. And Carol, any thoughts?
Yeah, it's really a good deal. We've been working on this for a long time, and it's finally come to fruition. Didn't think it would. Ink's not dry, but as of yesterday, it was solidified. So there you go.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to the next adventure. It's going to be great. Let's talk about Cars for Kids. It raised over $50,000 this year.
It did. It was a fabulous show. I think the total was between $52,000 and $53,000, and I just got the finance report yesterday on it when we had a debrief. But I want to thank all those that own these beautiful machines that came out. It takes time to clean up your vehicles, get them out there, put them in the show, and then be out there all day. And car guys and gals are just, it's a special breed. And but thank you for doing that. We had 258 classics out there. And then we had thousands of people coming through. That was the most I've ever seen. Big shout out to Hobby Lobby and Cal Ranch for their support. We couldn't do it without them. And thank you to those management team and their teams for supporting us. But I was told that Cal Ranch had a record day that day for sales.
Nice.
So that's what it's all about. And I'm sure the other business fell in line with that. But it just was. Everybody came out, and thanks to all our community sponsors. I mean, I've talked to a lot of them. We appreciate them. We couldn't do this show without them. We just couldn't. So thank you so much. We're going to have a big article in the paper recognizing every one of our sponsors, from our sponsors to all the way to our in-kind sponsors. You name it, will be in the paper, and we're going to continue talking about them.
And also, where did the funds go for Cars for Kids?
70% of the funds go to Boys and Girls Club for special programs, and most important, the kids. That's really what it's all about. 30% goes back to the Fraternal Order of Police outreach programs for student scholarships, youth events, monthly scholarships that we do for nonprofits. So all of it goes right back in the community, folks.
And like I was saying, it is Good Friday, and Sunday is Easter, so reach out, touch the people you haven't talked to for a really long time. If you're missing people, I know I need to reach out and talk to some people that I haven't talked to. Just do that and make sure that you close that loop, because everybody needs to enjoy this time of the season.
Well, we talk. There's always something negative to talk about, and I respect that, especially in my profession where I see so much negative and hear it. Shut your social media down that day unless you're sending a love message or a hello message to a friend or a family member. Otherwise, share the blessings, folks. It's Easter. Share the blessings and say hi to your neighbors. Reach out to those that maybe you've had a dispute with and make it right. So happy Easter, everyone.
And so this week you've also been busy. You had on Wednesday Senator Sinema and Juan Ciscomani and some other members of Congress and Senate come and visit Cochise County.
We did. We had them from North Carolina, Tillis. We had Tony Gonzalez from Texas, California, Juan Ciscomani, our new representative here, Senator Sinema. It was a great event. It really was. I've done a couple media articles on that asking, well, what happened? And there's an article in the paper today. I encourage you to read that. But it was refreshing. And what was refreshing about was it was bipartisan, number one, which I always support. But number two is it was collective in nature. They recognized there's a crisis on the border because you have California represented there. You had Texas and Arizona. And we agreed there was a crisis. And they said, we know you have a crisis. What can we do to help you? We're going after social media. We got to get social media. When you can buy fentanyl on social media is fractured. When you can recruit juveniles and kids to come down and commit crimes, you got to fracture. Social media needs to be held accountable like anybody else. I'm a believer in the First Amendment, but I'm not a believer in the First Amendment to commit crimes.
Also this week you met with the new DPS director.
We did. He met with the Arizona sheriffs. And I met him last month. He sits on the Arizona Post Board where I sit on too. So I met him. Very nice guy. Looking forward to work with him. He's going to be down here in Cochise County soon to get a tour and kind of meet our community. So I'm excited. He very, very professional. So again, I think we're going to have a good relationship with our director, and that's so important for our troopers out there that are a huge partner of the sheriff's office and our local law enforcement. So having their leader be united with us is very, very critical to that relationship.
And another reason for you to be busy this week, we've already talked about the jail district meetings, and so you've been at all of those, but yes. You also talked to the Citizens Police Academy of Sierra Vista Tuesday night. Actually,
we had John Black and Jim Benke. Jim Benke is our sergeant for our Sheriff's Assist team, our volunteers. John's our commander that oversees it. Jim's a founding member. So we had them actually take the lead on that. Now I'm the sheriff, I can wave at them and everything, but to talk about, these are two volunteer groups that serve communities and share communities. So having Jim and John go over there and actually share how we started, where we're at, and meet the new citizens that going through the police academy, I thought was very important. So again, I wish them well and thank you for their contribution for the Service Police Department and this community, because we share each other.
And also today is deputy recruits testing.
It's tomorrow, actually.
Tomorrow, okay.
Tomorrow, down to Cochise College at 8 o'clock in the morning. We'll be doing some deputy recruit. And last I heard, there's 30, 40, 50, something like that. That was several weeks. That's why I escalate that up. But those are good numbers. They're truly good numbers. And so I'll be down there. I try, if not me, one of my senior staff. We go to those meetings, and we actually thank them for applying, number one. But number two is wish them well. And I tell them, next time I talk to you, it'll probably be when I call and offer you a job. So good luck to you. Hopefully I get the ability to call you. So I wish them well. If they're hearing this radio, go, hey, I'm testing tomorrow. I wish you well tomorrow.
Good luck. And yes. So later today, you're also going to meet with Sherry Oz from DEA.
Sherry Oz is the DEA SAC, which means she's in charge of all DEA operations in the state of Arizona. Her and I have met several times. She's just a real professional, great lady. You see her on the news, talks a lot about all the fentanyl, all the issues. In fact, I just read an article they sent me the other day where Nogales, port of entry, is leading the nation right now in fentanyl. I don't know if you all saw that. That's a sad deal. We don't want that in our state. But we're seizing it. Sadly, it's not what we're seizing, which I commend. It's what we're getting away that we all need to be concerned about. But she's come down today to meet with my team and just have a round table and discuss issues. But more important is she told me she wants to thank the joint efforts. So thank you, Sherry, and look forward to talking to her later today.
And for your safety message today, it's fire season.
Oh, let me tell you, it's also wind season. Wind and fire, it goes a long, long ways. And long story short is we had that fire. My heart goes out to the two families that lost their homes this week. I want to thank to the collective effort of state, local, and federal coming together. Border Patrol was out there, Sheriff, Service to PD, the troopers. Everyone had an Arizona Ranger out there, and our Sheriff's Assist team, on and on. There was a bunch of people, emergency services. Dan DeShawn was out there, but we all came together to keep that community safe. Alert Sense was working. We were doing evacuations. I mean, people came out. Our animal control came out to start rescuing animals, and other folks came out. Thank you, everybody, because that's a community effort to keep safe. But we did lose 2 homes, and that's still under investigation. I haven't heard how it even started. Have you heard, Carol, yet?
No, they're working on that. So they have some ideas, but Bureau of Land Management is working on releasing that particular information. It could have been as a result of a previous fire that just, maybe sparked back up. But again, they're going to be working on that. But like you said, all of the agencies working together, and I think that the communication effort to get the information out was just holistic. Everybody from the ground coming all the way full circle. So it is unfortunate that people lost property. Pretty scary knowing people in the area or have to drive through that area and wondering for their safety. So it's a good thing that we were doing everything that we possibly could at that point.
And we want the people. First of all, we need to build trust, and we work on that every day. Our trust is our success. But number 2, we're there for them. That's most important. And I want to share one last comment, Grady, before we close out here. I don't think I've ever gone this long on the show. It's like 8 o'clock. I'm getting a little tired. But there's a green Challenger running around town with Sheriff on the side. And I'm getting a lot of texts. You're getting a lot of comments about it. That is our new marketing outreach car. It's a Challenger. It's actually a Hellcat. The young people and car people know what that means. It's a high-profile vehicle. We didn't buy that out of general funds. I don't have those kind of dollars, but it was off a grant, a drug grant that we got through the state. We got $125,000 to buy the lights for the car, the radio, equipment inside the car, the vehicle. That big shout out to Lawley's, Sean Lawley and Bob Santa Maria for helping us. That's painted on the side, and on the back of fin, at the back of fin area, bumper area says, "Seek opportunities, not drugs." It's part of our awareness for schools, and we'll have it at schools. But also, we got $75,000 to buy educational material and $50,000 for enforcement for drugs. So, thank you to the state of Arizona, the Attorney General's office for that. And again, we're pushing that forward. But if you see the green Challenger, no, we're not switching our fleet. That's just a specialty car out there that, by the way, it can stop you. So don't think it's just something you can speed on by and try to race. If you race it, it will stop you. I promise you.
And it will catch you.
And it will catch you. So again, please don't think it's just a fun toy. It's actually there for a reason.
When we finish that project, about the middle of May, we're going to have a birthday party for it. So everybody will get to see exactly what we're talking about. But you will see it running around there. You were driving it the other day.
I drove it the other day because my car was being used by some others, and they need a bigger vehicle, so I jumped in it. And I was glad to give it back. It's not my kind of car, even though I like vintage cars. I like muscle cars. But the bottom line is getting in and out of that thing. I don't know how people drive Corvettes, but either way. So, but it's a nice car. It really is. But it's for outreach and marketing and taking to schools for kids.
Well, before we go, Sheriff Daniels, wish everybody a happy Easter.
Again, everybody, have a blessed Easter. Give your family a hug. Thank you, everybody, for the support you give to this office.
First Watch on KWCD Country, brought to you by Sulphur Springs Valley Electric Cooperative.
You've been listening to First Watch with the Cochise County Sheriff's Office.
Hosted by Cochise County Public Information Officers Carol Kappas and Grady Butler.
Join us again next Friday morning, 7 to 8 a.m.
First Watch.
What you need to know from the Cochise County Sheriff's Office.
Only on